we're going to do a series on Islam and the presuppositional problems with Islam. It's not going to be in-depth as far as all of the details that you can get into when you're debating this, when you're studying Islam, because it's such a vast body of literature out there. But we're going to focus on the epistemological problems, because of the presuppositional nature of what we're doing here, and help you to target those things and to be familiar with those things when you encounter Muslims that you're trying to win to Christ. And when you think of Islam, you need to recognize that it positions itself as in line with the Jewish and the Christian scriptures. It sees itself as the final revelation within that lineage, of prophets. And the main point that they're trying to get at is there's one God, monotheism. And basically they misunderstand from the very beginning, we'll get into that, but they misunderstand the Trinity. They think the Trinity is tritheism, basically, and they don't even understand it in the Quran. But they basically, part of the attacks you're going to have from Muslims is related to this, because they think that you don't believe in one God. They see monotheism and Unitarian, a single person, as the true nature of God. And if you say, well, I believe in a Trinitarian God, a monotheistic but Trinitarian God, they think that's a contradiction, because they don't understand the Trinity. So you're going to have to familiarize yourself with the Trinity, because you're going to be defending that. You're going to have to familiarize yourself with some of the variants, textual variants, which we'll get into that as well, because they all, part of almost the way they argue is, if we can disprove the Bible, then we're true by default. That Islam is true by default. And that's not a valid form of argumentation anyway, but that's sort of what you're going to encounter. But basically, Islam positions itself in line with the Jewish and the Christian prophets and Christ himself. They say that these were prophets of Allah, that they proclaimed the Unitarian monotheistic version of theism, and that they are in line with that, and that's the final revelation. And obviously because they deny that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, because they don't understand it, first of all, but they deny that Jesus is God incarnate. Obviously this incompatible revelation. So as we discussed under the laws of logic and contradiction, that contradicts Christianity, then it can't be compatible with Christianity. So one of them has to be right, one of them has to be wrong. But we're going to get into the various details of this from a presuppositional standpoint. But really, all you need to know, if you don't know anything else, you can say, well, the Bible is self-authenticating. The Bible proves it's the Word of God. And the Bible existed, like in the New Testament, 600 years before Muhammad shows up. Muhammad shows up 600 AD, and the Bible and Christianity has already been established. It's already been in circulation. The Scriptures has already been copied, and so it's self-authenticating from a presuppositional standpoint, separate from and apart from Islam. So if you know nothing else, and you stand on presuppositionalism, you can say, well, the New Testament predated Islam, and it's self-verifying from a presuppositional standpoint, and so there's nothing that Islam has against that charge, but obviously, because you're going to get into more details, you're going to have a little bit more substantial argumentation, and you can familiarize yourself. There's a lot of good materials out there. There's a lot of guys that have done deep dives into this and apologetically, and they've debated these causes and they've debated these things, and so there's a lot of resources you can avail yourself of. So be diligent in that. If you're reaching Muslims, if you're trying to win them to Christ, if you're encountering them, utilize the data that's out there, but frame it within a presuppositional framework And I think that's the most honoring to God, and really it comes down to a lack of understanding of the Christian faith that they have, and so we need to be able to provide them with that, with meekness, and so provide an answer to every man that asks us the hope of the reason of the hope that's within us. So that's what we need to do, but let's understand what they're saying and where they're coming from so that we can answer them more effectively. All right?